Here we go. All right. It says we are live. So what's up, everybody? I'm going to double check real quick on something, Keith, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Because last time when I shared this with a previous guest, it blocked it. Like it wasn't available to the public. Yep. See, it's doing it again. So I'm going to make this available to the public. Save. And there we go. We should be rocking and rolling now. Let me just double check. Hey, guys, if you can hear my voice and see us on the screen, just give us a like, a comment. Let us know that you're with us. But it looks like everything's working on my end. I got it going and streaming all different places to the public now. So I'm ready to roll if you are, Keith.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, hey, look, this is officially our second episode of Proximity Live. Now, we've had the Proximity podcast for a while, but I'm just choosing to take some guests and do more live streaming interviews here to bring them front and center to you. And today is no exception. So welcome to Proximity Live. This is the place where we interview top industry leaders, thought leaders, experts, so they can share their knowledge and experiences with you. It really allows us a platform to deliver on what we call our proximity promise, which is to bring these industry experts, much like Keith, right to your screen so you can gain proximity to them. And joining us today, of course, is Keith. Welcome, sir.
Absolutely. Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Glad to have you here, of course.
Yeah.
So Keith and I got to know each other through a mutual background, actually, both having an athletic background. And he joined our free online community right now called the Champions Network, the place for former college and professional athletes who are now entrepreneurs. So if that is you and you're not in our group yet, quick little shameless plug, go to www.mychampionsnetwork.com. That'll take you right to the group, answer a few questions, and we'll let you in. But enough of that noise. So Keith, thank you, first of all, for being here. I've enjoyed getting to know you. We've chatted offline a couple of times, and I just thought your story was incredible. What you're doing in business is incredible, and a lot of people can benefit from hearing from you today. So why don't we just first start out by having you share with everybody a little bit about your background, like what's your story, what led you to what you're doing now, and just tell us all about who is Keith.
Yeah, thank you for providing this platform first and foremost.
Absolutely.
I was born and raised in Fresno, California, to a mom who's hardworking, single mom. Her and my dad never got married. So my mom would work 2-3 jobs, it seems like, just to keep the lights on. She eventually got married to my stepdad, who was also a former athlete, almost played for the Raiders. We didn't have the best of relationship at the time. So going into the 5th grade, my Child Protective Services basically gave custody to my biological dad, who I didn't know at the time, but was battling addiction, incarceration, and mental health challenges. So lived with him from the 5th to the 8th grade, expelled 6 times before I got to high school. 1.3 GPA my freshman year in high school, getting kicked off campus. I wasn't allowed on campus my freshman year in high school. Gosh, I wasn't allowed on campus when I was in 5th grade either, because I was just dealing with a lot of challenges. But a basketball coach stepped into my life and said, "Hey, kid, you can be a Division I athlete." I didn't know what that was, but they were going to Hawaii, and I wasn't doing anything else that was worth anything. Right? I was getting kicked out of school and 1.3 GPA. I wasn't. I told the basketball coach, I said, "Hey, I'm a student." And then he probably went back to his office and was like, looked at my grades and was like, "This kid, he's also a liar." So started playing basketball. I was a project. He put me on the team. Basically, I wasn't good enough to play, but I was 6'6", 215 pounds, and started playing ball. 4 years later, he also helped open a door to get me a scholarship to play at Portland State. Played there, didn't have the career I wanted to have. So I left college bitter. I left college frustrated. I left college with a chip on my shoulder, really looking for a way to be successful for myself. And so I went into sales, and I successfully completed the worst career launch in world history, with 17 jobs in 11 years. And
hang on, say that again. 17 and
11 years.
All right.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, comment below. How much can anybody beat that record? I just got to know. How many jobs do you have like that? 17 jobs in an 11-year window. Yeah. Let us know in the comments if you can match that. All right. Sorry, man. Keep going.
No. And I continued to work and work and work. And one day I entered into the payments industry. I was working in 2013. I got a life insurance license and was studying for my financial licenses to become a financial advisor. And struggled that year. I made $7,000 that year. Most of that was commissions I sold on my own, like buying my own policies. So I technically made no money. And after that year, I was going to another firm, and I got tapped to go to work at a payment processing company, fifth largest processor in the country at the time. Didn't update my LinkedIn for 6 months because next to car sales, the respect level that business owners have for merchant people is not very high.
Mm.
And so, I went to work for that company, worked there 2.5 years, left the industry, and eventually went to work in nonprofit, but realized it was too slow for me and decided that I'd become a business advisor, helping companies with the payments piece. So since 2017, I've run a company that helps business owners figure out who the best payment processor is right for them, help them negotiate, source, negotiate, implement, support the payment processing technology in their business. And today, I still run that business, but I also run a coaching and consulting company helping business owners align who they are, what their purpose is with their actual business plan so they can actually, build a more profitable business that's impactful, that doesn't struggle with trying to find the right people to work with. Because when business owners align their purpose with their actual business, a lot of the challenges they face today tend to recede. So yeah, that's what I'm up to. That's what I'm doing, and that's kind of my journey into doing what I'm doing today. And the final thing I'll say with that is that the reason why I serve entrepreneurs and why I believe in um, entrepreneurship is because when I was a kid getting kicked out of school, I had to go to work with my dad, and all of his clients were entrepreneurs, and those are the people I looked up to. Those were the people who had investment properties that my dad was remodeling or new construction projects that my dad was working on. And those were the people I looked up to. And they looked after me by paying me 5 or 10 or $20 on the job site. And now I feel like my responsibility as an entrepreneur is to look after the people that looked after me
Mm.
when I was coming up, getting kicked out of school, going nowhere fast. Yeah.
That's a heck of a, well, first of all, that's the second time I've heard you say that. And yet I can never get enough of it because there's so many lessons in that I'm going to let you tell today through some questions, but I hope people heard that about aligning your passion and purpose with your business. I mean, that alone is the gold nugget, if nothing else, from today's conversation. But I know you got a lot
Hmm.
more of those, man. And
Yeah.
and that's really what attracted me when you and I first connected. Is like I could feel, after speaking with you, that you've got this. You just you're very aligned. I feel your genuineness. I feel how important it is for you to operate out of abundance and truly meaningful relationships, not this fake crap, but deep,
Hmm.
meaningful relationships. And you and I hit it off right away,
Hmm.
obviously based on that. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that if that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
How has placing such emphasis on relationships impacted your prior athletic career? And then I'll ask you somewhat similar as it relates to business, but just
Hmm.
relationships growing up, moving through the ranks of athletics and things. Where did key relationships appear, and how has that impacted the level of importance you place on relationships today?
Yeah, I think that I would say that I have examples in my life of it going extremely well and not so well, right? And I think that once I sat down and came to the realization that it was really, really important, my life has changed for the better. So, me having a basically, I'm a person of faith. You don't have to be, but I feel like God threw me a bone and was like, put this basketball coach in my way on campus that day and
Mm.
said, this this kid's life needs to change because it's not going anywhere at all. And like that was the first relationship that really opened doors for me and held me accountable. And also, it was the first time that somebody looked at me and said, hey, you could actually do something great with your life and not just, hey, stay out of trouble. Right.
Right.
So that relationship, I remember a mentor of mine telling me, you're one relationship away from having a completely different life. And him telling me that, like I was an example of that. Like I should have already known that, but him telling me that and me going back and looking through my story and looking at all the different relationships that opened a door or provided encouragement, or like, it's so important. When I
Yeah.
look back on my professional career, or my collegiate career as an athlete, though, I didn't have a great relationship with my coaches, which is why I didn't have the career that I wanted to have. Had I, within the proper context, built a proper relationship with my coaches in terms of understanding what it is that they're concerned about, understanding what their responsibilities are, then I wouldn't have been so wrapped up in, like, how much playing time am I getting? Am I playing the role that I want to play? Right. And I think that because that's what I was concerned about, you figure I started playing ball when I was a sophomore in high school. I was, late to the game. And so
Mhm.
there's so much that I was trying to prove. There was so much that I was trying to learn that I can't say that I ever really fully embraced the big picture. Right. And in that, it was hard for me to have the right relationship with my coach. And so since
Sure.
I didn't have the right relationship, I didn't play the roles I wanted to play, didn't play as much as I wanted to play. I still contributed, but I didn't reach my potential because my
Mm.
relationships were wrong.
Wow.
If my relationships were right, I would have spent more time in film, really understanding what the coach's objective was.
Yeah.
Right. If my
Wow.
relationship was right with my coach, then there could have been real conversations around, hey, coach, how can I really take my game to the next level? How can I achieve the goals that I really want to achieve while at the same time honoring what your goals are as a coach? What are your goals as a coach? The thing that I didn't recognize was that my coach was there and he had a job. He had a job to do for his family,
Sure.
right? He had a job to do for his wife, his children, his community, and his own vision and purpose for why he got into coaching.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking about that as a collegiate
Mhm.
athlete. I was so selfishly focused on, like, what I could get and what I could prove. And I think that the reason for that challenge also was that I didn't have a relationship with me. Why was
Mhm.
I playing basketball? What did I want out of basketball? What was I really trying to accomplish? Was I really trying to go pro?
Mm.
Or what? Like, what did I really specifically want? I didn't really have that nailed down. And because I didn't have that nailed down, I didn't have the courage to have the conversations with the coaches that I really needed to have, right? Or I didn't have the courage to leave. There were opportunities for me to leave that school and go play for someone else who would have given me the opportunities to do the things that I wanted to do on and off the court. But because I didn't have it right with myself, I didn't have the right relationship with myself and my own dreams, my own vision for who I was and what I wanted to accomplish, I couldn't muster up the courage to have the conversation or pull the plug on a situation that wasn't right for me.
That there's a lot there. That's some
Yeah.
deep, heavy, very reflective stuff. So here's what I love about always talking with former athletes, because
Hmm.
it kind of is this brotherhood in our case, but
Hmm.
we're willing to study the game film, because
Yeah.
now it's all in hindsight. You can only look back and
Hmm.
now begin to connect the dots. And I've got to
Yeah.
believe at the same time, anybody watching this, whether you're an athlete or not, you're 18 years old, 22 years old, whatever. Like,
Hmm.
you got to give yourself some grace. And yet, those were, looking back, some of the most formidable years. But that's what I love, is athletes are willing to look back and study the
Yeah.
game film. And I bring that to my coaching philosophy today with business
Hmm.
folks, as I'm sure you do too.
Hmm.
So let's stick in that with that vein. And so you're now realizing these things in hindsight, maybe not
Yeah.
at the time. You're an 18, 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah.
So based on some of what you learned about that time of your life, how has that shown up in your professional environment today and made you the leader in business that you are today?
Yeah. So it's always, when I think about, that's a lesson I don't want to learn anymore.
Yeah.
Right. I think that the lesson is deeper than that as well. I think that when I think about, my dad is my hero, it's the person I admire, and he never reached his potential
Mm.
because he was holding on to things that caused him to wrestle with many of the things that he wrestled with, right, while we were growing up. And so that's a lesson that I learned from my father, but it's also that lesson that I learned from my experience in college. And how I apply that today is that I'm always willing to look in the mirror, first and foremost, right? Like this past year, I went to counseling, I worked on myself, I dug in to
Yes.
learn new things around emotional languages and just so much around emotions, right? I wasn't raised to go down and talk to a therapist. right? In fact, it was
Right.
like the opposite. Don't
Yeah.
do that.
We're not going to get into Yeah.
Right. You know, but I'll never ask my client to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
That's right.
Right. So how can I ask a client to do something or rest or work through things if I'm not the example, right? You got to be the example. And so what I've learned from looking back at my collegiate career and it not working out the way that I wanted it to work out is that, number one, I'm always clear about what do I really want?
Love that.
Why am I in business?
Yeah.
What are my core values?
Yeah.
What's my purpose for being in business? Why am I in business? Who do I want my work to have an impact on? You know, like those are things that are really important that I would say that when I started my business, I wasn't thinking about, because I was like, I need to put money, I started my business. I didn't have any money in savings. I basically gave a 2-week notice and I also got married that month. So like for anybody out there, like having a plan and not doing really important things, don't start a business and get married in the same month. But I would just say that as it relates to relationship, like I'm very clear about why I'm in business, who I want my work to have an impact on, what I'm trying to accomplish. And probably for the first time in my life, I actually have my priorities right. My business is not important than my marriage. Right. My business is not important with my own mental health and my own mental integrity. Right. Before, I would say that wasn't the case. Right. There was times in my life where I felt like my business was far more important than anything else in the world because of what I needed to prove. And I don't really need to prove anything anymore. Right. So first and foremost, like the relationship with myself is really important. And then in having that right relationship, now I know like what to do. Right. We live in a world where everything is like we're drinking from a fire hose on what we need to do. But we don't really have a filter for how we should apply these things in our life. And that's why I started writing a curriculum around purpose, because it provides a filter for how we can actually make decisions, because we need to have, first and foremost, our right relationship with ourselves, with our creator, if you're a person of faith, before we can really focus on like the business plans and the employees and the strategies and the tactics and all those things. Like we got to have the right foundation.
That is so true, man. I teach a course called the 13 Steps to Build a Scalable Business. And essentially the first 4 or 5 steps of 13 are exactly about what you're talking about. And I love this, man. Back to you is like the questions that you had not answered back in the day as an athlete. You didn't make the same mistake again. You answered them in the second wave, this business life of yours, of what do I want? What are those values? What are the priorities? What's the purpose? I'm taking notes if you can't tell while you're talking, because I'm here learning just as much as anybody. And I want to go back to something you said about the relational piece of this that I don't want folks to miss. You're spot on. A lot of folks, I'm guilty of this too, jump to the what. How do I do this? What's the strategy? What's the tactic? Whatever. And generally, there's a great book, Who Not How. It's generally I'm missing a key relationship. In your case, back in the athletics, it's this coach. At the time, he was the guy that you needed, that saw something in you, was willing to verbalize that and say, I'm willing to take a stance for your greatness more than you're willing to take a stance for your own limiting beliefs. And you needed that person. And sometimes the 4 most valuable words that someone needs to hear is, I believe in you. So somebody watching this right now, listening to Keith and all the wisdom he's sharing, think, who is it in your life watching this right now? You need to call, you need to text and say, out of nowhere, hey, Keith, I'm thinking about you today, and just know that I believe in you. I'm going to challenge everybody watching this right now, because you're looking at a man who's pouring his heart and soul. And maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that was the catalyst that led you in many ways to who you are and what you've become now.
It absolutely 100%.
Love it.
Yeah. To the extent that it's a responsibility. Everyone listening in right now has had someone pour into their life. Everyone here today has had someone that has done something, went out of their way to help. So when you think about that and you know how powerful that has been in your life, now what? You're just going to take it and like go off and like go live your life and go live your best life, or are you going to pick up the torch now?
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
because
good.
now it's your turn to go believe in somebody.
And Keith, I'm being a little silly here, or rhetorical maybe, but do I have, if I'm questioning, do I have to be a thought leader? Do I have to be a coach to have that kind of impact on somebody else's life? What would you say to that person if they're even wondering?
Yeah, Martin Luther King said, anyone can lead because anyone can serve.
Oh,
Yeah.
busting out MLK quotes on
Right,
you.
right. So, yeah, so no, you don't. You know, many of the
Okay.
people who've had, I mean, I have a long list. I mean, I talk about my basketball coach a lot. I talk about a lot of different people, but there's probably 40 to 50 people that I could say, many of them who I don't know who they are, that have impacted my life in a significant, that I wouldn't be here today. So it's not one of those things where you got to be the basketball coach or you got to be in a leadership position.
Right.
It could be as much as, or as little as, um, asking,
Yeah.
why do you do what you do? What are you trying to get to a year from now? How can I help? Is there
Yeah.
anything I can do to help you with that? Whether it's just being an accountability partner or making a recommendation on, hey, have you heard of this group? Maybe it's doing some research for somebody. There's so many things that we could do on a micro level that on the surface it seems like a micro thing, but it's huge because so many people don't have people that believe in them.
Here's what I love about this and your heart and focus on relationships. And I got more questions for you, but just real
Yeah.
quick, it just brings it back to human beings. We are beings.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins talks about the 6 human needs, one of which is connection. We
Yeah.
all need connection. Now,
Yeah.
you may place a certain value on it differently than me, but we all share that in
Mhm.
common where we need connection.
Mhm.
And in a day and age, I'm getting ready to rant, so I'm going to try and pull it back. But let me just say, in a day and age where there's so much superficial shit out there
Yeah.
with social media, and we're caring about how many subscribers and likes and comments we're getting, and we turn on YouTube like my kids and they're watching YouTube social media influencers.
Mhm.
Man, what you're putting out there is like, dude, do you want to be an influencer? Like on a
Mhm.
real level, not an artificial
Mhm.
intelligence level? You
Mhm.
text somebody and say, I'm thinking about you and just wanted you to know today that I believe in you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That is being an influencer in your own right
Yep.
without having to have millions of subscribers or
Yeah.
some fancy PhD after your name.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. No, it's man, it's everything. I mean, I remember I have a good friend of mine. He's one of my best friends named Tony. Before we became great friends, I ran into him in downtown Portland and I said, I don't know. I just said something. I was excited to see him. And later that day, he sent me an email or something like that and just said that made his day. That was 15 years ago.
Yes.
Today, we're best of friends. And that did something for me too, because I was like, wow, I didn't know that I could make somebody else's day just by being excited to see them.
That's right. That's
Like
right.
that was transformational for me just as much as it was for him.
No
And I think
doubt.
sometimes we think we need to, we talk about imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is probably where it comes from, is that we've been told that we're not worthy for so much of our life that we've tried to earn it when there really isn't anything that we need to earn. Just by
Mm.
showing up and being caring, listening to people, high-fiving them, encouraging them
Yeah.
is all that we really need to know how to do to make a massive impact in someone's life.
That's awesome.
We don't need more credentials. We don't need more like that stuff. Like we don't need more like that stuff is great, like credentials and learning and all those
True.
things, like achievement and those things. But it's like on a human level, all we need is to be able to encourage and
Yes.
impact.
But and like you said though, so what's the purpose? You
Yeah.
said, what do I want? What are my values? What is the purpose? What are my
Yeah.
priorities? Am I getting this? There's nothing wrong with credentials. I think they're
Mhm.
important, right?
Yeah.
But what am I getting those credentials for? Is it to
Mhm.
impress somebody else? Is it to
Mhm.
get a promotion, or is it so I
Yeah.
can learn and take that and make a bigger impact?
Right.
What is
Yep.
it for?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So we have a lot of business folks who are going to watch this, man. My following, your following, right?
Yeah.
That's who we run with. So
Mhm.
what common mistake do you see business professionals often make as it relates to relationships? Like where are they missing it right now?
Well, we're in a new era. So the old era, people were self-motivated and they worked because it was a responsibility. It was about honor. It was about taking care of the family. It was about um, what you do,
Mm.
right? We don't live in that era anymore. Today, people want to work and buy from companies that stand for something, right? They want to buy from companies who have a mission and a purpose that's bigger than just making money. The small business owner that's listening today, they're wrestling with how people feel about capitalism because they see major companies get away with things that the small business owner doesn't get away with. But the person coming out of college doesn't know the difference between a small business owner and a major corporation, public
Mm.
company, right? So small business owners today are struggling with staffing. And the reason they're struggling with staffing is because the marketplace no longer has talent that wants to just work for just money.
Gotcha.
They want to work for leaders now who stand for something, who care about them, who want to have a real relationship with them, who want to help them be successful. And business owners today have to play a different game than they had to play 10 years ago. They have to be different leaders than what was required of them 10 years ago. So I would say the greatest challenge or the greatest mistake is thinking that we're going to go back maybe to what it used to be. Like the people are no longer there anymore. People
Gotcha.
don't think about work the same way that they did 10 years ago. Right. And so I would say that the greatest challenge is continuing to operate in an environment where you think you could just show up, run a company and expect people to be loyal and work hard. Like it just doesn't exist anymore because people need more. People are requiring more of the companies that they work
Yeah.
for,
They
whether
want
it's
to
wrong or it's right or whatever. It's just the what people think about capitalism and business in general is not what it was 10, 20 years ago. And business owners have to shift. And that's why purpose is so important.
be. I think so. What I hear you saying, and I agree with a lot of your analysis, is first of all, people want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. I heard
Yep.
you loud and clear on that. And I
Hmm.
think it came from my mentor, actually, to give credit where credit's due, Nick Sarnicola.
Hmm.
It's where your passion and the intersection of like a worthy cause, a just
Hmm.
cause
Hmm.
intersect.
Yeah.
So it's like we can rally, we come from all different backgrounds, different priorities, different values. That's fine. But
Hmm.
we can rally around this cause. As
Hmm.
long as my mission and passion somewhere intersects with a cause, is that
Hmm.
what attracts people based on what you're saying, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you help people? Because I know you coach folks on this. What's like
Hmm.
just a taste of what a question or how you would help somebody say, I've got a good functioning business, but crap, after listening to this discussion today, I don't know that I have a clear cause or a purpose that this is tied to. How would you help
Yeah.
somebody in a, quick way to help identify what that could be?
Yeah, well, I can't say that I have a microwave approach to finding purpose, but there is a curriculum around purpose I created, and
Sure.
there's an acrostic for purpose, which is principles, which is the first P. Because if you don't have a strong set of core values and principles that you're going to operate your business by, then it's going to be difficult for you to communicate with your team in terms that they understand and buy into,
Yeah.
that they'll want to follow through on. Because absence of principles and core values and mission for your business, they will only think of it in terms of profit.
Yes.
And that's not something you want me to do this so you can make more money.
Right.
And this generation does not resonate with that at all, not at a high level, which is why, 7 to 8 out of 10 people are disengaged at work
Yeah.
because the why behind what they're doing doesn't align with who they are on a personal level. So you need to be able to reach people. U is for unique capabilities or uniqueness. What makes
Mm.
your business unique, right?
Yeah.
What's the story around the product or the service that you provide, and why is it unique and impactful for the customer that you want to have an impact on, which is where relationships come in. So you think
Yeah.
about the relationships that are important to your business, who you want to serve, right? Like,
Yeah.
what do they need? How is that impacting the uniqueness of your business? How are all these things play off of each other really well? Profession or industry. Why are you in this industry? What is the industry that you're in as a business, and why have you chosen this as a sector that you're going to make an impact on? Outcomes is, what is the outcome that you want for your business? Many people go into business. I know when I did, I was just looking for a way to take care of myself and not have to have a boss.
Sure.
But eventually I realized I hit a ceiling because I hadn't thought about what the true outcomes were, because I didn't know about what the true outcomes were for the business. Like, how much money did I want to personally make? What did I want my schedule to look like? How many employees did I want to have? How, like, where did I want to make an impact? Like, is this national company, global company?
Sure.
These are different things that we can think about that will help us plan, because
Yep.
we need to have a plan in terms of when we're going to make important decisions. Story. Story is about the mission and the vision
Mm,
for our business and our life. Like, these things are both things that I think owners and operators should think about on a personal level, but also on a corporate level, because there has to be that connection.
mm,
Effort. Everybody needs to have a plan. What is it going to look like strategically?
yeah.
Let's sit down and think about the effort that we're gonna deploy to actually build our business. And so when I work with someone on finding their purpose, those are different paths that we take.
Mm,
That's a journey we take to really figure out, like, what is it that you're after? What are you building? Why is it important? And when we do that effectively, then we can actually develop the raw material that we can hand off to the marketing department, that
yeah.
we can hand off to the people that we're hiring to execute on the business. But also, more importantly, we have a language now that we can communicate with ourselves first and foremost about why we're doing what we're doing, so that when it gets hard, we can still go to that conference that we paid for and push through, because business, it's not going to get easier, right? But we can become more intentional as it becomes more difficult, so that we
Mm,
can break through, reach the people that we need to reach, but also reach the goals that we got in the business to to achieve, and also have everything intact. When we're
mhm.
not clear about the relationships, me personally, when I started my business, I wasn't clear about what kind of marriage I wanted to have.
Right.
And I think because I approached the business the way I approach business, which is like a former athlete, which is like 18 hours a day for 2 years, like, that wasn't good for my marriage.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if we can be intentional about these things when going into it, then we can plan. We can have those conversations with our significant and say, "Hey, honey, this is what it's going to look like for the next 90 days." But then we can build in
Yeah.
this break here, so that we can go do this connection thing that we need to do to keep our relationships tight.
That's awesome.
All of these things align because I've met with so many extremely successful people. I work with companies 0 to 100 million in revenue, and I meet people who, run a $50 million company that are not happy, right?
100%.
Are that are showing up at work a certain way because they're not happy at home.
Yeah.
All these things work together, and they need to work well together.
You're preaching now, borderline preaching right there, dude. Like, that is some really good stuff. And what was interesting there, first of all, if you can't see it on his shirt, is purpose. And he just ran you through his acronym, what the P, the U, the R, and everything meant there.
Yeah.
That's what you were doing, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I was watching your body language there, just for not like in a creepy way, but
Mm.
when you got to the S, I saw your
Mhm.
face light up more at the S than any other one. And it's
Mhm.
stories, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in preparation for today, I
Mhm.
was perusing your website and reading your About Me section, and you even had that in the first paragraph, stories. It was bold
Yeah.
and underlined.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that as a transition. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying
Mhm.
to be slick
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So let's turn the corner real quick, because your story, you shared a
Yeah.
little bit on the front, is
Mhm.
filled with examples of determination, perseverance, overcoming
Mhm.
challenges, man.
Mhm.
So I'm curious, share with everybody whatever you're willing, but what is an example of something that you've had to overcome, and how did it help shape who you are today?
Mm. Mm. Wow, you're gonna put that one on me? Something I've had to overcome. I think that I have a few examples. Um, One of them was my sophomore year in college. I went back home to Fresno, California for the summer, and I drove at night. I don't recommend it. I left Portland at like 10 o'clock at night, and I got to California like an hour and a half from Fresno at about 7:30 that morning. The sun was coming up. I was tired. I actually fell asleep at the wheel, and I lost everything. Everything in my car burned because I was coming home for the summer. So all of my championship rings, all of my Jordans, Timberland boots, brand new jerseys. I mean, as a college kid, like that stuff's like really important. That stuff's more important than food. You'll eat noodles while you have a brand new pair of Jordans.
Yeah.
I lost everything. And I woke up on the side of the road. My car is in flames behind me. Um, and they asked me what day it was. And I didn't know what day it was. It was like June. I was like, September, 35th or something like that. But yeah, I would say that my life changed from that point because I was very selfish
Mm.
at that point in my life. And it took me losing everything to recognize that somebody else took time out of their life to help me survive. Right. Because I could have burned with all of my belongings, but I didn't because somebody else took time out of their life to help me. So that wasn't necessarily something that I overcame, but that was something that changed my life. And the way that I think about that is that I don't know if that person was a Republican. I don't know if they were a Democrat. I don't know what their sexuality was. I don't know where they were born. I don't know if they were white, black, purple, polka dot. I don't know anything about them. And so what I learned from that situation is that you don't know who's going to change your life, and you don't know, um, like you don't know who it is. So you need to respect and care about everybody that you come across as much as you possibly can, because you don't know. And you know, you don't know how how you treat people today is going to impact your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren 100 years from now.
Yeah.
So I would say that experience changed my perspective on life, and that's something that I try to like implement into everybody that I encounter today. Which is why if you look at my any of my social stuff, I don't talk about politics because I think it's become extremely divisive,
Yep.
and we're missing the point. Somewhere along the line, we got infected with a disease that places people in general further down the priority list of our life. And we missed the point. Like, people are the gift. The relationship is the gift, right? Being there for each other is actually the gift. It's not the money. It's not the commissions. It's not politics. It's not me getting it my way politically or you getting it your way politically. Like, that's not the gift. Like, that is not the gift. That is the consolation. If anything, it's not even a prize. It's sad. People are the gift, and that's what I learned from that situation
Wow.
that I encountered.
Here's the thing. Yeah, I dropped that on you, and I'm so happy I did, because your answer was that's my most favorite thing I've heard you say all day, right there. We'll probably splice that from this whole thing and just use that all over social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
That is a message and a reminder that so many people need to hear, and I'm thankful that you said that and are willing to share that. And there's many more stories I know. I'm sure we all have them. I've never met a quote unquote successful person who hasn't been through some stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then, like,
Mhm.
if somebody out there right now watching or listening to this is going through something, they're going
Yeah.
through some ish,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And they're trying to overcome some of that stuff. Like, what would you say to that person? What advice would you give them when they're thinking, gosh, I don't know how to get through this?
Mm.
They need a little hope or inspiration. What would you maybe tell that person?
Mm. I would think for someone that's in that space, I've been there, man. I was there for a decade. I remember one night I went to a seminar, because that's one thing I did when I first got out of college. I got involved in network marketing and went to seminars, and like I would do anything I could, walked in the rain to seminars. I mean, it was just terrible. But one night I got pulled over and my tags were expired, and I had to like get all of my stuff out of the trunk, and I had to carry all my belongings in the car with me back to my apartment. Luckily, I got it pulled over near my apartment, and I got all my stuff out of the car because I knew I couldn't afford to get it out of the impound. And I went in the house and I probably ate some really cheap mac and cheese because that's all I could afford. Not even the real stuff. It was like knockoff mac and cheese, like really bad. It was like awful. Um, I would say to the person that is struggling right now, who's going through something. I mean, I've been through a lot of different stuff, whether it be divorce to being on the verge of bankruptcy for a decade to um, and working hard, by the way. I mean, I wasn't like I was doing everything I possibly could to try to figure out life. And I almost started to feel like my life was meant to be this way. Like
Mm.
I was meant to be unstable. Um, I would say keep going. I would say keep reading,
Mm.
keep finding positive material that you can consume. But more importantly, I would say find people that are doing what you want to do in a way that you really respect and that you honor, that really aligns with your core values, and build a relationship.
I was hoping you were going to say
Because
that.
you're one relationship away. You're one relationship away from having a completely different life. And then from a story perspective, begin to believe that everything that you've gone through now up until this point was intentional and on purpose so that you can now go out and help other people overcome the challenges that you're about to overcome.
Man, that is powerful. And I know we're approaching time here for both of us, but speaking of relationships, if somebody wanted to learn more about
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, how to get in touch with you, gain proximity to you,
Mm-hmm.
before I forget or anybody logs off or anything, how would they do that? Promote your companies, give out whatever information you want,
Yeah.
bring it on, then we'll bring this thing full circle.
Yeah. I would say connect with me on keithsconiers.com. You can
Okay.
find me Keith Sconiers on, LinkedIn, Keith Sconiers on Instagram. It's just my first name and last name. You can also email me keith@keithsconiers.com. And yeah, we can set up a call, chat,
Perfect.
whatever makes the most sense.
You got it.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this. There's a lot I could say, but I'll try to be brief. You never know what's going to come of these. We try to keep this
Sure.
organic. You and I
Mhm.
were talking before the show, like,
Yeah.
just no planted questions. We're just going to have a conversation and a million
Right.
people can watch it,
Yeah.
right? But man, I will say I'm going to go back and watch this myself so I can be in that state versus the interviewing state, because you
Yeah.
dropped a lot here and I'm grateful for that. And
Mm.
by doing so and just hearing a little bit, just a taste of your journey
Mhm.
and things that you've achieved and overcame and the value you place on relationships, I can say on behalf of everybody watching this, thank you, because by you sharing and being vulnerable with what you shared today, 100%, myself included, will impact more people than you probably will ever know.
Mhm.
And that's the point, isn't it? The
It is.
relationships, the willingness to share your story, not feeling embarrassed by it. Everybody's going through something. Don't let the
Mhm.
people putting on a facade trick you. Man, you're as real as they get, and you have overcome a lot. And yet, I know the athlete in you. You're just getting started at the same time,
Yeah.
man. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be
big
fun,
things
man.
to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, any just words of wisdom? It doesn't have to do with anything that I would have asked you today. Just any last parting words, any advice, gold nugget you want to give our audience today?
Yeah, I would just say that for people that are out there listening in that are trying to accomplish whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, just remember that people are the gift.
Mm.
Like at the end of the day, I'll share this story about a friend of mine named Craig. Craig is I met my friend Craig through a client of mine who runs a very successful restaurant here in Portland. Um, Craig lived two hours away, but every time I went to the restaurant, it seemed like Craig was there eating.
Yeah.
He was their insurance agent. I helped them with their point of sale stuff, and Craig would come in and support. Like he was so committed to supporting his clients that he would be in there 2 to 3 times a week. He lives 2 hours away. In a world where gas prices are $3, $4, $5 a gallon, like
Yeah.
he didn't have to do that. He could have
Right.
been status quo. This is my job. This is my lane. Right. But he didn't. He did more. He went the extra mile, quite literally. And so when Craig passed away a couple of years ago, and I went to his service, and at times I would think about, oh, I'm just a point of sale person, or I'm just a credit card processing person. I would de-edify my own profession because I wanted to be more impactful. And sometimes we think we need to change our profession to be more impactful. Like, oh, I'm going to go be a teacher, or I'm going to go be a nurse, or I'm going to be, and those are very important professions as well. But I think sometimes we think there's a profession that is impactful, and there's some that aren't. And I think that what I learned from Craig is that I went to his service, and it was standing room only. The church wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because his rates were cheaper. It wasn't because of the policy that he sold. It wasn't because the color of his car or how he voted or anything like that. He made an impact on people's lives because he poured into other people's lives. So the difference between poor me and poor me
Yeah.
is you. It can be POOR,
Mm-hmm.
poor me, woe is me, or POUR, pour yourself into other people's lives. And I think that when you do that, you get far more than what you could ever plan for, or any goal that you could ever set for yourself, because you actually achieve what we all really want. And that is a life that matters, a life of significance. So focus on that and let the other stuff take care of itself.
You delivered, man. That you got to make that into a shirt, by the way. Pour me, pour me. That's some sort of shirt. I don't know what's going to go on with that, but
yeah.
Keith, thank you so much. KeithSconiers.com. Hope I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Sconiers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. KeithSconiers.com. We'll put that link in the chat if you guys. It's SCONIERS. KeithSconiers.com. Go there, check it out, reach out to him. He's as good as they come, if you guys can't tell. So, Keith, man, I am so thankful for you giving us time today, sharing a little bit of your knowledge, a little bit of your story. And I can't wait myself to go back and watch this truly so I can make proper notes, man.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, hey, guys, until next time, we're going to keep doing these proximity lives. If you or somebody you want to submit to be on this and just spend some time with me and going through the interview, I'm happy to hear from you. And again, if you're a former athlete, hey, check us out. If you're an entrepreneur now, My Champions Network, mychampionsnetwork.com. We'd love to have you join the community. So in the meantime, Keith, thank you so much, sir. And we look forward to connecting with you even further beyond here.
Yep. You too. Take care.
All right.
Yeah.